Donna Swanee. This is quite a pleasure. President of the Northridge. I'm curious, when did your passion for Star Wars begin, and how has it influenced you?
I became a fan of Star Wars. I've been a fan for as long as I can remember. I have photos of me as 8 or 9 years old, even just as Princess Leia. She's been a lifelong hero of mine, and I've just followed it all throughout my life, through elementary school, middle school, high school. I used to do my hair in Leia styles all through high school. It was very
Wow.
different. Yeah, in small town Texas, and I always had Princess Leia hair going on. I had really long hair, so I always had braids or had the Bespin hairdo in the background going on. So I've always been a huge fan and followed it all throughout my life. And
I'm
I
just,
just
I'm just
love
imagining
what.
somebody. I only imagine Texas as a desert, so I'm imagining somebody like stopping in your town and thinking they've landed in Tatooine.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, pretty much. So we, as I got older and was able to see some of the movies again and kind of understand, seeing them through the eyes of an adult, seeing them through the eyes of a child. It's an adventure. It's exciting. It's good and bad and really cool costumes and excitement like that. But then seeing it through my eyes as an adult, I feel like it's a bit of a different story. It tells a more in-depth story about good and evil, and persevering, fighting for what you believe in,
and
and always trying to do the right thing.
and
So it,
I'm curious. You said that from the beginning you were a big fan of Princess Leia, did your hair as her as a child, and even now as an adult, that she's one of your major cosplays. So although you're saying that as an adult your perspective and your appreciation for the movie has maybe become more matured, your fascination or love for Princess Leia hasn't changed. So I'm curious, what is it about Princess Leia that attracted you then, and what has kept that love for her going even to this day?
you know, as a kid, I think it was just the idea that she was a princess, but she wasn't someone who lounged around, was surrounded by forest animals and singing songs. She was someone who would fight the bad guys and lead an army essentially when it was time to try and defeat the Death Star. And that was really exciting. Just kind of saw her as a different type of princess. And then getting older, just really looking at her character as more of a leader. I mean, yes, she's very powerful, very strong-willed, but she's a leader. She is someone that she got had a purpose and was able to have people follow her for that same purpose, and to organize this entire rebellion and fight the fight against evil and tyranny. So I don't know, it's just something that just continues to kind of resonate with me, is just do the right thing and follow your beliefs, and whatever you do believe in, don't be afraid to make choices and to be a leader. And if people have the same interests, and to work together and trying to focus on whatever task or belief that you're trying to convey.
So speaking of which, President of the Northridge, how did you come to join the Northridge and become its leader?
I first kind of ran into the Northridge. A couple members, Larry and Janice, were at a Best Buy event at the release of one of the video releases. I think it was like the special edition VHS version of it, way before it came out on DVD.
Wow, you're
And
dating yourself.
I know,
DHS
well,
version.
my youngest was about 6 months old. He was maybe a little older, and so we kind of came across them, and they gave us some information about the group, told us who they were, and just never really kind of pursued anything. I just thought it was really neat that here's this couple dressed as Star Wars and taking pictures, and they were. collecting donations for Compass House. So that was really a nice introduction for me to Compass House. And then as time went on, I started hearing on the radio about Star Wars Night at the Bisons. At the very beginning, it was on a Friday night, and we tried to go one year right after Little League. It didn't work out. Kids were tired. But we finally made it to, I think it was 2010. And it was our very first Star Wars night. It was very full of people, very packed with people. Not quite sold out, but I think they were pretty close. And it rained. It rained the entire evening.
Oh, boy.
The game was rained out, and everyone was taking shelter in the stadium, and they weren't sure if they were going to end up putting the show on. And so with all of that, I got to meet a lot of people, got to take some pictures with some of the characters and everything, and try to understand what they were doing there, what it was all about. But we missed the performance after the game. I guess it was the first year that they actually put on this huge demonstration, this huge performance after the baseball game, because before it had been little snippets in between the innings. So we missed it. But while I was there and kind of touching base with everyone, learning about what they were doing, they had flyers that, about a new member recruitment meeting. So that's when I signed up on the forums that they were originally a part of, and started attending meetings. And over the years, just really took a very active role, and ended up being elected president a couple of years ago. So.
Tell me, you mentioned Star Wars Night. And I guess your first involvement with Star Wars Night was essentially as a fan in the stadium, not
Correct.
as a part of the Northridge.
Right.
When did you actually? So you sort of saying you signed up right after that, and were you in the next years? When did your actual involvement start?
Yeah, it was exactly that. It was exactly that. So I went to the recruitment meeting, which was about a month or 2 months after the actual event, and started going. I didn't even have a costume yet, so I started helping out with events. I went there as just costume support and took some pictures. And then I decided I wanted to go ahead and throw together a Princess Leia costume. So I actually made my first costume in one night while I was watching Star Trek, ironically enough. So, but we don't talk about that. But so yeah, I threw the costume together and then started making some appearances with the group. And then when it came to Star Wars Night planning, I was, invited to participate on the field, and was given a lightsaber. One of our members loaned me a lightsaber, and I got to duel a little bit with Darth Nihilus on the field. And it was a really quick, short appearance, but it was very exciting. So,
Was that Star Wars Night in 2010, or when was that?
That was 2011.
2011. Okay.
Yeah, that was 2011. Yeah, and then after that, my participation in the evening really grew. It was more than just standing there posing for photographs. I became one of the producers for the event, working very closely with Anthony, the GM for the Bisons, as well as trying to organize the out-of-town guests that we had, kind of planning the event from the very beginning, and working with the show organizers. Dueling had some appearances on the field, and then over the last couple of years, doing more organizing the actual character appearance and flow.
So now, you've been with Star Wars, or doing Star Wars Nights since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
In, I guess, the last 8 or 9 Star Wars Nights.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, what is your favorite memory from Star Wars Night?
I would have to say that there were 2. Really. So throughout all this time, my involvement and my love for Star Wars, I brought my kids into it. My husband and my kids are very involved into it. So our kids really grew into it, and they started participating at a very young age as background characters in some of the filming that we did for the event. And then once they felt comfortable and were a bit old enough, they started posing for photos in costume, and then eventually dueling on the field. So one of my favorite moments was when our oldest son, James, was on the field dueling with Aiden Reynolds. And they had worked really, really hard on choreographing this amazing duel. It was very, very exciting to see. And they were in the spotlight for just a few minutes, but their duel was so amazing. And the crowd was just thunderous. I'm watching their performance from the tunnel, and after the end of their duel, they did all these fancy Obi-Wan and Anakin spins of their lightsabers, and then they clashed. And when they clashed, the scream from the crowd just it still gives me chills. I was so happy. I was so proud of those boys, and Jonathan is certainly done that as well. Last year he had a great duel battling someone who was twice his size, and winning that duel and having a lot of personality to it. But one of my other favorite memories of Star Wars Night was 2 years ago when I portrayed Princess Leia. It was actually my last performance on the field by choice, and it was a very Leia-centric role. And it was also right after Carrie Fisher's passing. So with the whole story, and then the performance on the field, including the final speech, was really a very, very, it was just the most amazing moment. You know, I'd have to say that is one of my 3 favorite Star Wars moments, really, was portraying this character who I have grown up loving and admiring, and then, you know, performing this incredible dialogue that was written by Brian Patrick Stoyle, that, and then hearing the crowd's reaction, it was just such a wonderful feeling. To be a little selfish, it was just really a really great feeling for me, but it was a great memory to the reaction of the crowd and how involved all the crowd, the entire stadium, I mean, 17,000 people were so involved in this story. And that was the year that we made, gosh, I believe that was one of the years that we made about $17,000. And just knowing that, and that I had that part of it, part of participating in that and making that happen, really is just one of my favorite all-time memories.
That's beautiful. Well, those were all of my questions.
Okay. All right, Bill. Well, thank you so much for helping out. I really appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Bye.